What's going on, y'all? Zer from ZuCast, and this is wild. This is crazy. I'm sitting beside the best principal in Chesterfield County, the best principal in Virginia, and maybe the best principal in the United States of America. One of the greatest men I've ever met, one of the most energetic men I ever met, one of the best human beings I ever met. Low-key out of breath. Dr. Jones, how are you feeling today?
Man,
how are you doing?
I'm feeling great. You got me all pumped up right
yeah.
now, man.
Let's get it.
That's setting a pretty high expectation right there.
Yes, sir. So first of all, thank you for coming through. Super busy, and it's a very busy weekend for you. It's homecoming weekend. How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling great about homecoming weekend. We just coming off an awesome week, awesome pep rally today.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be a great game tonight, and then of course the dance Saturday. We sold over 1,300 tickets, which is about 250 more than last year. And if you remember last year, we were packed. Yes. It's going to be great.
Lit. So how are you feeling about these past few weeks of school?
I feel great. Coming in year two, I was a little bit nervous because we were down a little bit in the planning. We had one administrator transfer out, and then another administrator gave birth to a brand new baby boy.
Oh, wow.
So with that time that you spend and crossing all the T's and dotting the I's, we were down two administrators, but we've got a really strong team, some really great people. So we were ready for you all to come back, and we had a couple of great things that we wanted to put in place, and we did. And so I'm not gonna lie, it was a challenging start, a little bit of bumps in the roads, but now that we've kind of reached our groove, and we've even had our homecoming week already, it's really, really cool to see the students adjust and react to what we're trying to do at Thomas Dale, long range, but having those short-term wins. So overall, I feel great. I'm in a great mood coming over here today.
Yes, thank you. Like, just what was your childhood like?
Yeah, man, that's going back. So I think I had great memories as a young buck coming up, when my parents were still together. I had a great childhood. Both my parents were together. I had a younger sister. My dad was all about that hard work, and my mom also had kind of a little side hustle going on, but she was always taking care of us. Everything that I needed, I had. We were not rich. We were definitely working class. But when it came football season, I played football. When it was basketball season, I played basketball. When it was baseball season, I played baseball. And we were a roller skating family too. So both my parents worked at the roller rink. So I spent almost all of my time. I think I could skate before I could walk.
Wow, that's
which
some
is
swag
exaggeration.
right there.
So I would say I had plenty of opportunities right up until I was about 9 years old, and that's when my parents split, and that's when my trajectory changed dramatically. My parents split. I went to live with my mom, and we moved into our first apartment complex. And my mom took to a life with the freedom of not being married to my father. She took to a life of partying, of drinking, of drugs, bringing different folks in and out of the house. And I had lots of freedom, the freedoms that a young 10-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old boy shouldn't have. I didn't find trouble, but trouble could have easily found me. But the life that we lived in, living on food stamps, my mom basically took the child support money and partied with it. So we got bumped from different apartment complex to different apartment complexes. That type of lifestyle I was exposed to at a really young age, and I didn't have much supervision, so I pretty much did what I wanted to. I ran with the other kids in the neighborhood. Didn't get to eat much because there was never food in the house. I remember my dad bringing a police officer to the house one time because he wanted to bring me back, but I knew that if I left, then my mom would stop getting the child support checks. I thought in my head I was helping my mom still live by bringing in that child support check every month. But finally we got evicted from the last apartment complex to the point where her credit had caught up to her and no one else would take her in. So she went to move back in with her mom, who's my grandma, and I went to live with my dad. This was the summer before my 9th grade year. So the summer before my freshman year, I went to live back with my dad and stepmom. And I mean, same thing. I didn't have much direction. I didn't have an identity. So basically what my friends were doing is what I got into, and I kind of changed lanes and changed friends. I stuck with baseball. I dropped football and basketball along the way to take up kind of a partying type lifestyle, but I stayed with baseball through 10th grade, and that's when I found my musical talent. And I actually joined the band my junior year. And thank God I did, because it's really the only reason I went to school every day, because I know I got to go to music class. If I wouldn't have had music, I probably would have dropped out of school. I didn't have any direction. I didn't have any focus. So I'll stop there, because I know your question was about the early childhood. There's a lot about my childhood that I've repressed, but it's there. It's also kind of shaped who I was. But like I said, up until my parents got divorced, man, I was on a trajectory to have the blessed life. And I'm not saying my life's not blessed, but man, it took a turn for the worse. So overcoming that adversity kind of helped shape who I am now.
Yeah, I feel you. Thank you for opening up. How often did you see your dad back then?
I didn't see him much. We were supposed to go once a weekend. My sister, she left early. My sister was younger than me. She went to live back with him early on. As soon as it got bad, she got to the point where she wasn't old enough to say, no, I don't want to go with you. So she went back to live with my dad, and thank God she did, so that she didn't have to get exposed to the same things that I got exposed to. I mean, he was always a presence. It's not like he was in a different town. He wasn't a deadbeat dad. He was a hard worker. He held down a job. He loved and cared for me, but the way he did it, his impression of love and caring for you is to try to buy that love. And so, and it's not what I needed. I needed someone to be that father figure, to set clear boundaries, and to show me that love can come in a different way. But because I was starving for it, the places I was getting that love and that attention and that connection, that human bond, it was not in good, healthy places. So I probably saw him maybe like one night a month, and it was still connected with other things, like at the skating rink. He would be working on the Friday night as the DJ, and I would go roller skating. So that would be my connection with him, and then he'd work at his real job through the weekend. So I really didn't see him much. And then when I moved back in with him, right before high school started, like I said, the summer before my 9th grade year, he was always working. And when he wasn't working, that's when I was off from school running the streets with my friends.
Wow. So what type of student were you in high school? Like, I understand that you were like out in the streets and hanging out with people and whatnot, but were you like staying up with your studies, or you just like, to heck with that, I'm gonna just have fun every day?
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, that's a great question. I ended up graduating with like a 2.6 or something like that. So I wasn't great. But I was pretty smart. You know what I mean? Like, I was really
like
good
naturally
at math.
smart.
I was really good at math. I had an aptitude for science. I could write well. I hated reading, man. I couldn't stand
super
reading.
hard, bro.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is now I love to read, but it's because of the things that I choose to read. It was like if somebody was telling me to read it, I would bucket just a bucket. I wouldn't even give it a chance. But no, my teachers, up until my junior year, and I'll talk about my junior year in just a second, but my teachers hated me. I didn't do anything. I didn't take notes, and I'd come in and I'd ace the test. So they didn't like that. And so I was more concerned with the periphery. I mean, like I said, I can't even tell you what I did, because I really didn't do anything. And I could tell you about my focus in band and my time in marching band and concert band and playing the drums and music and even getting a garage band on the side. I could tell you all about those experiences. Those are the things that stick with me. But if you ask me how often I did homework, I don't even remember. I didn't spend much time in the books. So I was what I would call the gray man, the gray student. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't a high flyer, bright shining star who was going to go cure cancer one day. And I also wasn't the kid who's always in the hallway getting in trouble or starting fights. Or so I mean, I was the kid. I was a kid who it's easy to get lost in a high school.
Wow. Word. So what was the moves after high school? What was the plan?
That's a funny question, man, because there was no plan. I didn't have direction. I didn't have focus. There was nobody to guide me. There was nobody who kind of pulled me in under their wings and said, hey, you've got a future in this. This is what you should do. This is what I recommend. I mean, even in the way I treated my social life, I didn't have somebody to pull me in and say, hey, there's a whole nother way that you can live to get what you're really after. What you're searching for, there's a whole nother way to live. So without a plan, without direction, without goals, without focus, I looked to my uncle, and I was most like my uncle in the ways of, you know, the aptitude of math and science. So he was an electrical engineer. He went to Virginia Tech.
Shout out Virginia Tech.
As an electrical engineer major, and he was an electrical engineer. I thought, let me give that a shot. Be like Uncle John. Obviously, I didn't have the grades to get into tech, but I got into ODU. So I was in Old Dominion. At Old Dominion, I got in as electrical engineer major, and same type of commitment to college that I had to high school, and that ain't gonna work in college. And I quickly found out that academics weren't for me, engineering wasn't for me. That's not what I wanted to do. So after 3 semesters, I quit. I dropped out of college. And of course, my dad wasn't about to pay my way, so I was holding down jobs. I had a job during the school year, and I picked up a second job in the summer. By the time I had one of those summers, I was working 3 jobs, and it was just too much. So I quit a job, and then after the last time I quit the job, my last job, because I was just going to take out student loans, my dad said, if you don't have a job, you can't stay under my roof. So he kicked me out. I was 19. I quit college after 3 semesters. I was lucky enough to be dating a girl. She's now my wife.
Yeah, shout out to her.
To be dating a girl whose parents said, we'll take you in until you can figure it out. So they let me stay with them for a couple of months, and then I moved in with somebody else as a family friend. And I mean, I was working as a line cook for a restaurant, and no direction, man, no focus, no goals. I was going nowhere. Thank God my girlfriend stayed with me. You know what I mean? But man, I was lost. I had nothing. 19, without goals and direction. And it was summertime of 1997, and a movie dropped. It was called Con Air, and the main character was Nicolas Cage, and he played an airborne ranger. And I'm watching that movie, and I'm getting inspired by how much of a badass this guy was. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I want to be an airborne ranger. So the next day, I went to the Army recruiter, and I walked in. I said, I want to be an airborne ranger. The rest is history, man.
Wow.
I got scooped up. You know, the recruiter took the ASVAB test. I scored high enough. Went to the Richmond MEPS to say, you know, hey, I want to join the military. What jobs do you have? They came back with a job. I said, no, I want to be an airborne ranger. They came back with another job. No, I want to be an airborne ranger. And finally, after 4 hours of being at MEPS, they came back and said, we got you an airborne ranger contract. I scored, like I said, I was smart. So I scored high enough on that MEPS where they didn't want me leaving. I mean, high enough on the ASVAB. They did not want me leaving MEPS without being committing to the Army. And so the rest is history from that, man. That was there was no plan, and what's really sad when I think about it is I got my life's direction, and I am where I am today because of a movie.
I think that's beautiful. Like, for us people that's into like cinema and performing arts or whatnot, that's why like a movie is more than just something to watch for an hour and a half to 2 hours. Like, this is,
it could change your life.
It could literally change your life, bro. So shout out to movies. Shout out to Nicolas Cage. I want to know what type of training and stuff did you have to do to become an airborne ranger?
Oh man, that was so basic training was 8 weeks, and it's the same 8 weeks that everyone goes to. My basic training was in Fort Benning, Georgia, and I started in, man, I don't even remember now, October. Yeah, anyway, so I started in October, 8 weeks of basic training, and the hardest day was the first day. It's that transition from the life you used to know to the life you're about to have.
Wow.
And I just, and that was a long time ago, man. Remember, that's 97, so we're talking 22 years ago. But I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, I remember sleeping in the bunk and only getting like 3 hours of sleep, and then clanging and banging at like 5 a.m. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then all these drill sergeants like yelling, and that stuff is real. You know, you're told exactly what to do to shave your head. They give you the clothes to wear. They tell you what time to wake up. They tell you what time to run. They tell you what time to clean up, what time to brush your teeth, what time to get in the line, what time to eat, how long you have to eat. I mean, it's just regimented. So great experience for leadership, great experience for developing a sense of purpose, to get some direction, to get some motivation, to get some drive, to get some discipline. And we're talking physical training, we're talking mental training, learning how to be a soldier, what it means to serve in the military. And then from that 8 weeks, I went straight into my what's called AIT, Advanced Individual Training. And my MOS it's called 13 Bravo, but it's infantrymen. 11 Bravo, not 13. 11 Bravo, it's infantrymen. And so for 13 weeks, you learn how to be a killer.
Like kill people?
Yep. You learn how to be an expert marksman with the rifle. You learn how to use different weaponry from big stuff with big munitions to small stuff like how to kill with a knife, how to kill with your hands. I mean, that's what the Army's about when you're talking about being an infantryman. So I spent 13 weeks, doing that. Of course, getting in, that physical shape, that mental toughness, and what I picked up more so than anything were some really key critical leadership skills that kind of shaped the foundation of the leader I am today. After basic training and AIT, I went to airborne school where I learned how to jump out of a plane. So that's 3 weeks long. The first thing you learn how to do is learn how to fall, because you got to learn how to land when you're under a parachute. And then you do some tower work where you learn how to kind of steer a parachute and then how to fall coming from a parachute. And then the third week, you jump out of that airplane. And those were all static line, which means that your parachute is hooked to a line that's hooked up to like a wire inside the airplane. So once you jump out, it automatically pulls for you. And when you're jumping at that height, it's like 1,200 feet. So you get maybe 3 or 4 seconds of free fall before the parachute opens up and then you fall down. After that, it was 3 weeks of what's called RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program, and that was intense, man. That was 3 weeks to prepare you to be an airborne ranger in the unit. And then every day is about training in the unit. January of 99 is when I got my shot at Ranger School, and Ranger School is like the elite leadership course in the Army, and that's 62 days long. And so January, February, and the early part of March, I was in Ranger School, and anyone will tell you that's tough sledding, man. No sleep, no food, you're maneuvering, you're really learning how to lead in suboptimum conditions, like when you don't have sleep or food. Can you still make decisions and lead men into battle? So those were the early parts of my training.
Wow.
That was a long story, my bad.
Jeez. So the first time you jumped out a plane, was it scary?
No.
Or was you like, let's get it? Like,
let's get it. So, and I'll tell you this story. I mean, it was just building up to it. It was hype. And remember, this is early '98. So I'm 21 years old. Like I'm just turning 21. So I'm at the height of my testosterone levels. I'm at the height of my, that the adrenaline kicking in. So the bravado, the machoism, and and I'm still an early soldier. So it wasn't about being scared or fearful. It was about let's go, man. But I'll tell you, in 01, spring of 01, I got the chance to go to the military free fall school, and that's when you jump from 12,000 feet. And that's 60 seconds of free fall before you pull your
60
chute.
seconds.
And that's no joke. Terminal velocity at 120 miles an hour, like literally
I'll be throwing up.
Going 120 miles an hour, falling through earth. But so that was a completely different experience because you have to be so focused on your technique. my field of vision was about the size of this screen for your microphone, which is the size of your altimeter, because you got to know when to pull your parachute. So imagine you walking around only being able to see your field of vision here. You know, right now you got your peripheral, you can see 270 degrees, but only being able to see this amount because you're so scared, you're so focused on what you got to do. But man, I tell you what, that was a great feeling, man, flying through Earth, flying to the Earth. Yeah. So I was in the Army for 6 years, October of '97 to December of '03, and probably the most important decision I ever made was going in the Army, because I can't tell you, I might be a homeless drug addict right now if I didn't join the military. I mean, I might be dead, I might be in jail, who knows? Where, like I said, man, before I watched that movie, I was a rudderless ship. I was in the river, but I wasn't going anywhere. I had no direction. I had no way to steer, and no boat to move me. But 6 years, and they flew by. And now, I mean, you know, I got out in '03, so that's 16 years ago. So it's a whole student that time ago. So yeah, man, great years.
How did you know it was time to go?
Well, so my wife Suzanne, we kind of made that decision that we wouldn't have kids until I got out. I knew that we wanted to have kids, and I knew that there's no way I could be the dad I wanted to be. Just remembering my childhood, there's no way I could be the dad I wanted to be and an airborne ranger at the same time. So I knew that I wasn't going to be a lifer. Where the switch came was when I got back from Afghanistan in late '01. I was tapped to be an instructor for a 3-week prep course for Ranger School. So really, we called it pre-Ranger. And we ran 11 sessions a year. And so my last 18 months of service, I was an instructor. And that's where I found like my passion and found my genius.
Teaching.
Yep. I was good at it. I loved it. I got an adrenaline rush every time I taught a good lesson, no matter what it was, whether it was a lesson in the classroom or a lesson in the field. I was able to connect with the young soldiers easily, and I thought, you know what, this teaching thing might be where my future is. I kind of like this teaching thing, and I really like math. So what if I got out of the military and went back to school to get a math teaching license and a math teaching degree? And that's exactly what I did.
Nice. Real quick, so you just say you was in Afghanistan. What was it like out there, and what other countries did you go to?
So the early part of the fight in '01. So remember, 9/11 happened, and less than 30 days later, we were wheels up to go over there. So October 9th is when we were wheels up. Obviously, there's stuff I can't share, but we set up on an island off of Masira Island off the coast of Oman, which is southwest of Pakistan, which Pakistan is right underneath Afghanistan. So setting up the early base there, moving over into Afghanistan to set up. And so in Afghanistan, the fighting wasn't really until the north, but we couldn't fight into the north until we kicked off and had a foothold in the south. So the early part of it, and I was only over there for 2 months, October through December of '01. So the fighting that I saw is nothing compared to the fighting that happened up north, like when you get towards Kabul and stuff like that. And obviously, I didn't serve in Iraq because I was already an instructor when Iraq happened. So getting a foothold in the south was necessary before we could move into the north. As far as other countries that I've been in, man, I mean, I've been all over the United States. I've been to South America. I've been to Europe, specifically Germany. I've been to Africa, spent some time in Botswana. That was a fun time.
Word.
Bet. And then, of course, over in Southeast Asia. So, I mean, 5 of the 7 continents. Yeah.
Oh. So after the Army was the education phase. So like, what was your first job as a teacher, like in a school?
Yeah, high school math teacher. So
where at?
Green Run High School in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
In a little bit of ways, I'm trying, if I were to compare it, to a school we have in Chesterfield. Like if you were to put more like Meadowbrook, when we talk about dynamics and demographics. Relatively small school. I think we had 1,600 students, which is pretty funny for me to say 1,600 is small, but you know, when we're
we from
2,500,
Dale, you know what I'm saying? It's different over there.
It is different. You got that right. You know, large African American population, large free and reduced lunch, and I absolutely loved it, man. You know, what's funny is when I left, I graduated from Bayside High School.
Shout out Bayside,
in Virginia
all them
Beach.
people. Shout out Isaiah and Falana, alumni. Let's get it.
And going and coming back, people would ask me, where do you want to teach? And I would say anywhere but Green Run because of the reputation. Like, oh man, you don't want to teach at Green Run. That's a rough go.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed with the department chair and the principal, when I walked out, it just felt like, man, this is the place I want to be. It just felt right. And it was awesome, you know. And what's funny is, well, it ain't funny because it's the society we live in, is the outside perception of a place. People think they know so much about it when they really don't. And if you take a look at a school or any group on paper and you make those judgments, it's almost always wrong until you get in there and you get to know the community, you get to know the kids. It's just a different place. So Green Run High School was my first gig as a high school math teacher. Taught Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. There are some places that will give new teachers kind of the hardest teaching assignments. So one of the hardest teaching assignments that I got as a first year teacher was what was called the upside down parts of math. So the kids who failed their second semester the year before would take the second semester of that class again in the first semester, and then they would go on to take the next the first part of the next semester. So we're talking about kids who have failed math and they're behind grade level and off pace. So my first year, one of my classes, I had 16 students, and in the years previous, no teacher could get a higher than 25% pass rate on a test with those kids.
Wow.
100%.
You?
100% my first
Man,
year teaching.
you were that guy, bro. Like,
yeah, buddy.
amazing.
So, you know, I absolutely loved my experiences, and my principal tapped me early on in my first semester. My principal was like, you need to get into an admin prep program. I mean, between the leadership experience that I had in the military and some of the things that I was doing in the school as a first year teacher, my principal was like, yeah, you need to get into an admin prep program. So I did. I enrolled in January. And my first year of teaching, I'm learning how to be an administrator off the jump. After my first year of teaching, I did my a summer school internship as an administrator. So here I am, young Jones, 1 year teaching experience as a supervisor in a summer school setting for teachers who were veterans for years and years and years. I never ever told them I only had 1 year teaching. They would have looked at me like,
they don't need to know. They don't need to know.
Son, get on out of here. So,
Word.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. The path that was laid before me. Especially some of the people I got to work with.
Like, what was your first principal lane? I don't even know how to word that. Your first principal job.
Well,
like actual principal, like
yeah. Well,
you
so
are the principal.
I'll give this right here. I mean, Thomas Dale. Yeah, I've never been a principal before Thomas Dale.
Wow.
I was, assistant principal. I worked for central office as a teacher leader on professional development. I took on a couple of different leadership roles at my school while I was a teacher, but like sign on the door principal, this is it for me, man. Thomas Dale.
What made you choose Dale?
Oh, I think Dale chose me, man.
I love that. I love it.
So,
I love it.
I really do. And everything, Zuri, everything's about timing and fit. And you don't really know it until it happens. And you'll see that as you progress in life, man, that everything that's meant to happen will happen, especially when you set yourself up for it. So, as an assistant principal in the school I was in, After my second year, the principal retired. He had been the principal there for 20 years. He was like the Godfather. I'll give you an offer you can't refuse. So this new guy comes in, my last 2 years there, and he was, a completely different dynamic. There were so many things that I learned from him that I didn't already have from my previous experiences. And my last year that I was there, so the year before I came to Dale, it was football season. It was October. We were at a home football game, and he and I were walking from the home side of the stands around the track to the visitor side. And he said, at some point, we need to talk about next year because you're ready. And I had been doing a lot of things in prep. I was in a aspiring principals program through the school division to kind of get in that pipeline so that I would be kind of next in line for that opportunity. But as soon as he said, because you're ready, like somebody who I admired and I looked up to and had some tremendous influence, for him to see in me what I already believed, boom, everything locked in place. So it was like 2 weeks later. I'm in the Walmart parking lot. I'm in the minivan. My wife takes 3 of our kids into Walmart. Our youngest kid had fallen asleep, so I'm just chilling in the minivan, take out my phone, and I get curious. I Google Virginia high school principal job openings. And so there's a website that has all the openings, and I'm scrolling through, and some school divisions will have like a general opening, so they get a pool of people. But I'm scrolling through, and Thomasdale High School, Chesterfield County Public Schools. I take a screenshot, I send it to my principal. I'm like, what do you think? He's like, what's the worst that can happen? You get an interview and they say no, at least you'll get the interview experience. So my wife comes back from Walmart. I show it to her. She's like, where's Chesterfield? I said, it's about a 2.5 hour drive. She's like, we'd have to move. I'm like, baby, you're getting way ahead of yourself. Like, I'm just trying to get an interview. I'm just trying to get some interview experience. So I start working on my network. He knows, my principal knows somebody who can write a letter of reference, who has an in. I worked for somebody in our school division who just came from Chesterfield. So I had 3 letters of reference ready to go. And I start studying. So I apply, get my references in, and I start trolling you guys on social media. I'm checking out Thomasdale website. I'm checking out Thomasdale on social media, and I start getting this feeling, man, like, man, these kids are awesome. Yeah. I start falling in love a little bit, and so I'm prepping for the interview. I'm getting ready, and I get my interview. My interview's like beginning of December, and I crushed it, man. I crushed the interview. I was so ready for it. Just my experiences as an administrator, but also the homework that I did on the school and the school division. And so obviously I got a second interview, and the second interview, I got the call right before winter break. So I had 2 weeks to kind of study. And as I was prepping for the second interview, which I knew would probably be the last interview. So it's with the superintendent, it's with the chief of schools, it's with the chief of staff, the big wigs. I didn't feel like I was prepping for an interview. I felt like I was prepping for the job. Like, Thomasdale is my school. Like, I'm going to be the next principal of Thomasdale, and as you know, the rest is history. And now that I'm a year and a half in, and I'm in the middle of my second year, I know I was meant to be the principal of Thomasdale. I think Thomasdale was really, really good for me, and I think I'm really, really good for Thomasdale. So it's about that timing, and it's about that fit. So when I say Dale chose me, I can't imagine myself as the principal of any other school anywhere in the world. I love our school, man.
What are some things that makes Dale different from other schools that you love?
The first thing is our diversity. Not too many schools can boast the diversity we have with the color of skin. Not too many schools can boast the diversity we have with languages. Not too many schools can boast the diversity we have with kids coming from mansions and then kids coming from government housing.
Exactly. Bro, I always think about that with Dale. It's literally students that live in mini mansions and then students that live in trailer parks in the same class. Yep. Like, bro, it's not like that any other school. Yep. It's diverse, bro. Love that.
And I think that's so. I mean, we're a slice of America. I mean, you can't go to anywhere in our country and not see at least one of our student groups represented. I mean, so that's the first thing. I like that we're so big because it's a challenge to make it feel small. And I think we've done a pretty good job. And I can't speak to what it was like before me, but when people talk about Dale, they say that now. They say, you guys make a school so big kind of feels small. I think that has a lot to do with the Chester community.
Shout out Chester, man.
Yeah.
C-Town. C-Town.
That's right. So I think, the first thing that I think about when you ask me, what makes Dale special or unique, or what do I love the most about it? I mean, of course I love the kids, but man, we got every walk of life. And so what I boast most about public education is there's no other institution or there's no other place where somebody can learn how to navigate so many different personalities that they're going to experience in life for free and when the stakes are low. So if you graduate from Thomas Dale, there's so much more that you're prepared for just by nature of having to navigate. I'm in a classroom with somebody who's on the opposite end of the political spectrum, the color spectrum, the financial spectrum, the cultural spectrum, the socioeconomic spectrum. Just like, you can't get that anywhere else.
You really can't. What are some things that you want to change or would like to change about Dale?
Ooh, a lot, bro. And it's about the opportunities for you guys. I think the thing that I'm extremely interested in is how the experiences you have in Thomas Dale set you up for whatever's next for you. I think it's important that you find your identity, really exploring your values and beliefs and knowing who you are and what you stand for. I think it's also important for you to find that purpose. And those two things really go back to my own experiences. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea what was next for me. So I floundered. Now, I think the ship got righted, but if you have opportunities to find out who you are and what you're about, and really what's next for you, and then giving you some experiences along that way, so you can develop some skills, you can have some experiences, you can be sure that yes, this is the thing that I want to do, or you can say, you know what, I've tried that out and I want to change lanes. I'm interested in changing the curriculum. I don't think we're teaching the right things anymore. I think there's some other things out there that we need to be teaching instead of holding on to the curriculum that was written 150, sometimes 300 years ago. I mean, math hasn't changed. Like, why? The world has. But maybe how we interact with the universe, the language of interacting with the universe hasn't changed, but the universe has changed. So why are we still, I don't know. I don't want to make too many teachers mad, and it's not about the teachers because they don't write the curriculum, they implement the curriculum. I think there's a lot that we need to change at the system level because I do think we're teaching the wrong things.
Wow, beautiful. So yeah, teachers. How do you deal with teachers that don't think the same or don't like what you're doing? Because I always wondered that. I never thought about that until you came to Dale. So how do you deal with that?
Well, I think so. It's important. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that you guys don't see that we do. So I think first and foremost, as a leader, there are 4 important words that if you're going to write anything down, it would be listen to your people. And before you can listen to them, you got to ask them. So as I was coming in and I was transitioning, I interviewed a one-on-one with almost every single body on the staff. I put it out to everybody to do, and I spent a lot of time in the spring while I was still an assistant principal at the other job before I took over, and then all summer meeting with our staff, meeting with our teachers, meeting with the community, meeting with student groups, and just asking 3 simple questions. What are we doing that we need to keep doing? What are we doing that we need to stop doing? And what are we not doing that we need to start doing? So I call it keep, stop, start. And the information that I got out of that, I took all of that and said, all right, this is what the first change is going to be. And so those were the kind of the early first changes. All last year, I took different groups of teachers on different site visits. So we'd go see other high schools in the Commonwealth. If they were doing something cool, we went to go see it. We went to a 3-day conference. I engaged a couple of different groups in book studies, like my admin team and our instructional leadership team. And really, it's just about, for me, it's building a sense of urgency, not only for you to see the need to do something different, but see how other people are doing it. So a lot of the things that I want to do at Dale, things that are short-term and long-term, it helps folks to be able to see it in action, because then they can begin to see themselves. And I would say that the bulk of our staff is rowing the boat in that direction. And of course we still have some teachers who are not really there, and it's okay. I mean, it's a lot to ask somebody to let go of something that they've known for X amount of years,
for decades.
To and not always the case for decades. I mean, it might be somebody who's been teaching for 7 years. Like, man, this dude's coming in here to move me off my spot. And sometimes it's just about being moved off your spot. Just the sheer nature of, you're going to come in here and tell me, and no, not really. Here's where you are, and here's where we're going to go. I'm going to help you get there. Everybody has different entrance points of where that is. But you got to get there. Because we can't go another day without doing right by our kids. And that's where, for me as a leader, I've got this tremendous sense of urgency. Like, I don't want another day to go by where we fail another kid, just one. But I've also got to be patient, because we're bringing 220 adults along. We're bringing 2,500 students along, and I'm bringing an entire community along with me. Because remember, our parents in our communities only know the old system. So when I'm talking to them about blowing up the system and redesigning it completely, that is something that's unknown and foreign to them. And it's easy to buck change when you don't know, when there's kind of uncertainty. So that's where it's important for me to build an environment where you feel safe with uncertainty. I feel safe to take some risks. I feel safe to innovate. I feel safe to try something new and fail forward. And I trust in this guy here. So that was the very first thing that I had to do, was forge trust, communication, and relationships. And I haven't mastered that. I'm still working on that. And the harder I work at that trust piece, the better we'll be as we move forward to this new vision and this new version of Thomas Dale.
Awesome. How do you handle school and family?
I struggle with that, Zuri. Anytime somebody asks me what's the thing that I struggle most with, it's balance, bro. I pour my heart and soul into Thomas Dale. I cry, I bleed, I sweat. I spend so much time there because what I know it can be and what the work that it's going to take to get there. I'm not afraid of those things. It's at the sacrifice of time with my family. So when I'm with them, and I get a little choked up sometimes when I think about this. So if I do, I apologize. But man, I try to maximize when I'm with them. But Zuri, man, I'm so spent from pouring myself into Thomas Dale that I've got really nothing left to give to my family. So I tell my wife this. I said, I'm sorry, baby, that you guys get the leftovers. I mean, you all get the best of me. My own kids don't. And so it's something that I've got to work on, but it's not going to come until Dale is set in a place where I'm like, all right, we're really moving. We're moving this machine. So I struggle with it. And the other side of that, Zuri, is that I identify myself as the principal of Thomas Dale. Like everywhere I go, even on Saturdays and Sundays, there's some type of Thomas Dale swag I'm wearing. Yeah. I mean, I love our school. There, like even when I'm walking around, I mean, I don't act like a principal. I don't act like a principal at school anyways, but it's what I associate with myself with me, like, or who I am. Like, who are you? I'm a principal. I'm also a father. I'm also a husband. I'm also a son. I'm also a brother. There are a lot of other things that I am, but for me, I identify myself as the principal of Thomasdale High School.
Nice. So I want to say that I'm thankful to have you as our principal, and like, you're really, really awesome. And like, so the way that you lead and like the energy that you bring has helped me become a better leader. Like with Social Equality Club, like I literally like take stuff that you do and like do that, nice. And it helps me. And then like I just have like a new energy when I walk inside school, and like a way of talking. Even the hand moves, like sometimes I be going like that. Like how you do like that?
Let's go.
I be going like that. Like, bro, I just get like super lit. And I want to say I'm sorry for those students at Dale that like don't see the vision and are disrespectful and whatnot. And I'm gonna try my best to like get them straight and do my part and whatnot. Yeah. So do you have any children that will be coming to Dale?
But my oldest, she's in 8th grade. She's going to apply to the specialty center. She's an artist. On merit, I'm pretty sure she's going to get in. But even if she doesn't get in, she's going to come with me. I mean, I know exactly I know what Dale's about. I know what she's going to get at Dale. I know what I'm doing to move Dale forward, and I know that the experience that she would get at Dale is unlike any other, like we were just talking about. So she'll be there next year as a freshman on in the 9th grade academy at West Campus. It'll be pretty cool. It'll be different. I mean, I there's so many students. I stay so busy, I probably won't even notice it. But so I've got an 8th grader, a 6th grader, a 4th grader, and a 1st grader. And I want them all to come to Dale. My second daughter, who's currently in 6th grade, she's probably gonna have none of that. She's like, Dad, I don't want to go to your school. Yeah. And it's not about Dale. It's about Dad.
Dad.
You?
Have you always had this energy?
No, man.
Like, when did this fire into you?
When I started walking in my purpose. The things that I've been most passionate about are the things that I've poured myself into. I was dead set on being an airborne ranger, and nobody was going to stop me. So I had fire and passion and energy, enthusiasm about that. When I got out and I went back to school to be a teacher, I knew that I was going to be a teacher. So I was on fire. I wasn't as energetic. I was kind of low key because I was spending all my time outside of school and studies racing Ironman, so I was always tired. As a teacher, I was always hyped. As an assistant principal, I was always hyped. And obviously, as a principal, I'm always hyped. I think it's, man, I don't know. I think it's because I'm walking in my purpose. Like, this is what I was born to do. This is what I was meant to. I had all of those experiences as a child, my high school experience, and then my experiences as a professional, both in the military, as a teacher, and moving up through the ranks of administration. Like this, it all prepared me to do this. And so, when you're walking in your purpose, your passion will come out in different ways depending on what your personality is. And for me, it's high energy. And the other side, I mean, there are days I don't have great days every day. You know what I mean? Like, there are days that I got to give myself a pep talk. Like, I got to pump myself up. Like, there are days I yell at myself, like, let's go, you got to get going, boy. But imagine if I were the principal and I didn't have the love, the passion, the energy, the enthusiasm. Well, that automatically sets the tone. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that I've learned over time, is that the principal, through his or her actions, through his or her attitude, through his or her behavior, 100% controls the climate in the school. No one else in that building has that kind of power, because I could come in angry as a bear and yell at people and make all these rules and do these things, and that can be overnight. And that's, number one, that's not what I want. I don't want that for anybody. Yeah. Plus, it's not going to help me accomplish the goals that I have set for our school to move forward. So part of it is out of necessity, but most of it is because I'm walking in my purpose.
How often do you work out, and what do you do?
I work out 6 days a week. I take Sundays off. So Monday through Saturday, I'm grinding. I work out at the school first thing in the morning. I do a combination of things. Like, I used to work out. So after racing Ironmans, I got hit by a car when I was riding my bicycle in June of 2006, and that kind of ended my Ironman career. And I started teaching the next year. So 2007 is when I started teaching. I hooked up with this other teacher. He was a PE teacher, and he was jacked. I'm like, hey man, can I work out with you? Yeah. So I started working out with him like that fall. And I mean, when you're talking about lifting heavy weights and moving heavy weight, and remember at the time, I'm just turning 30, so I'm young. You know, to you, 30, man, that's old, James. Like, to me, on the other side of that, like 30 is young. But straight powerlifting, weightlifting, kind of bodybuilding type movements. And then when the CrossFit craze hit, I started doing some CrossFit things. And so now I would say, I'm an old man, I'm 42, I'm a principal, so all of my time is tied up. So I do all kinds of things. With weights, free weights, with powerlifting. I'll do some Olympic lifting stuff. I'll still do some bodybuilding movements. I'll mix in runs. with the cardio. So I hit it as hard as I can for about 45 to 60 minutes every morning before I get cleaned up and get ready for the day. So it depends on the day, but I mix it up. As long as I move some weight, I get my heart pumping, and I get my mind right and my head clear for the day, like I'm straight.
Word. So as we start to wrap this interview up, unfortunately, because I know you got a lot of things to do. It's a busy weekend, homecoming weekend, Thomasdale. We here. If you could talk to the students of Thomasdale right now, just like talking to them right there, what would you say to them?
Oh, you know, the first thing I'd say to them, I love you. I think if I could tell you all a few things, man, I tell you a lot. I'd say the first thing is I'd want you to focus on yourself. I'd want you to first establish this deep-seated belief that really anything is possible. If you want to be a doctor and cure cancer, if you want to be an engineer and turn algae into jet fuel, if you want to be a YouTuber and set up a podcast and reach a large audience, if you want to be an actor or an artist, if you want to be a mathematician and the first person to figure out how to divide by zero, and it doesn't matter. Like, if you put your mind to it and you stay focused and you set that goal and you just commit to the grind of what it's going to take, just realize that it's not going to come easy, and you persevere and you stick with it, you can have that. But you can't have it if you first don't believe it. So the first thing that I would do is to say, focus on yourself and focus on who you are and what you believe, and try to block out that noise, because there's a lot of noise out there. And what I've noticed about teenagers and really in this era, and in this generation, and I notice it because I'm coming from a school that was big with just over 2,000 students, and now I work in a school with 2,500. So I've been working for teenagers for a long time, and it's easy to get distracted, and don't let noise that doesn't matter move you off that spot and make you second guess that belief in yourself, or take you off of your focus to go chase your goals. So that'd be the first thing I'd say. The second thing that I'd say is if you're going to step outside of your lane and you're going to have an impact on somebody else, make it a positive impact, because if you have anything then a positive impact on somebody else, it's no good for anybody. It doesn't do you any good, because it doesn't improve your position or work towards your goals, and it definitely doesn't do that other person any good, because you never know what your interaction is, how somebody's going to react to that interaction. So when I talk about kindness, and when I talk about compassion, and when I talk about empathy, and when I talk about humility, and when I talk about gratitude, those are the things that I'm talking about, because the world that's in your head that you always want to create, it's not going to happen if we don't have anything less than a positive interaction with somebody else. So if I could say two things, it would be, number one, you can develop a deep-seated belief in yourself, and that if you commit to it, you can accomplish it. And the second thing is, how you show up in the space and interact with others is ultimately going to impact the future, whether you know it or not. Like right now, this interaction that Zuri and I are having is changing the trajectory of the future. I don't know what that's going to be, but the world is no longer the same after an hour that we spent together on this podcast. And so hopefully for you, Zuri, I know it's been for me, it's a positive interaction that's going to move something forward towards either my goals or your goals, or the goals of the audience and the folks out there in Thomasdale. The other thing is, I would say, like I said, the first thing is I love you, is you will always have a home at the castle. So no matter how things get for you, you will always have somebody who will be there to listen, who will be there to bounce ideas off of. I don't always have to be the one to give you advice. Sometimes you just need to walk into somebody's office and just unload. I'm a really good listener. And so just know that you've always got a home base in case you need it. I'd say that. I mean, I got a lot that I want to tell you, but to keep it as simple as I can, I love you. Focus on yourself. Be the positive interaction that somebody needs, and you've always got a home at Thomasdale.
Go Knights, go Knights. Where can we find you on social media?
Me, I'm only on Twitter as an individual. It's VA Educator CMJ.
Okay.
But you all know that I'm the ghost poster for all of our other social media accounts. So on the gram and on Snapchat, it's GoTD Nights, and on Facebook, it's actually a person. It's Thomas Dale. And for those of you who I communicate with and in the DMs, you know I answer back. So sometimes I ignore the comments for obvious reasons because some of you guys kind of got lost in your feelings this summer.
I was going to talk about that, but I was like, no.
No, it's okay, man. I've moved on, and for those of you who looked at that and were kind of a little ashamed, let it serve as a lesson. Like the version of yourself that you're putting out there is the version of yourself that will show up in an interview, that will show up in a relationship, that will show up in somebody's admissions application. Trust me, it doesn't bode well. And what I think is interesting is the bravado and the confidence that you have under the guise of anonymity and behind kind of, Twitter fingers is what Drake calls it, is not the same thing that shows up when you're looking somebody eyeball to eyeball. So if you're not going to say it to somebody eyeball to eyeball, don't put it on social media. And just remember that it's a human being on the other side of that. My feelings were hurt. I'm not going to lie. It hurt when you love something and when you love someone as much as I love Dale and I love you as students, when you love them that much, it sets you up that much more for hurt. So even though I've kept it moving, if I were any less secure in who I am as a leader and who I am as a man, that could have been some seriously detrimental emotional damage you could have done. So check yourself when you do that kind of thing. So, I mean, obviously I've moved on, and I think even because I've addressed some students one-on-one, and we're cool now. We're good. The relationship is strong, and we've moved on, and hopefully it's a learning lesson. But for those of you who continue to hide behind that, I'm sorry for you, man. And hopefully you watch this so you can hear, like, just stop.
Stop. Bro.
Just stop.
It's like, what did you gain from that?
Yep, nothing.
You gained a couple likes.
Nothing.
On the comment. A couple LOLs. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, man, I could talk for days, Zuri, but I mean, this is.
I mean, we're definitely going to have you back on ZuCast.
Okay.
Definitely going to have you back. Man, you can follow me on Instagram at Zuri the Artist. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Homecoming weekend this weekend is going all the way down. I'm getting turned up. Tanner is coming out. Zuwab is coming out. You know what I'm saying? Micro Boys, what's up? This is the Dr. Jones interview. Peace.